first. But wow, beautiful job, sister. Thank you so, so much. A dear, dear sister in the Lord. The next person who will be up is our other female panelist, Natalie Martinez. Natalie has an MS and an MDiv degree is a human service generalist and bivocational grassroots leader in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She holds a BA and an MS in administration and human services from Chestnut Hill College and also an MDiv from Biblical Theological Seminary, now becoming Missio Seminary. Natalie is a native of Columbia, but grew up primarily right here in Olney. Am I right about it? I'm right about it. Grew up right here in Olney and has a keen awareness of her calling to take part in helping those who are in poverty and being a voice for those who are marginalized. Her prayer is to see the Church of Jesus Christ stand up more as a prophetic voice in the city and to be an incarnational element for the gospel of Jesus Christ. She's worked in the urban context for over 20 years and cares deeply for young people, has worked in a great deal of ministry for young people. She's also worked in public service through a role as a federal investigator at the U.S. Department of Labor to bring about justice in the workforce. She's the founder and administrator of Arise Care, a social care agency that believes in independence, that independence is freedom and empowers individuals to remain in their homes instead of being placed in long-term care facilities. She's the board secretary for Timoteo Football and president of, yes, Timoteo. Some of y'all know Timoteo. 600 young people in this city in a great program based on sports, but doing so many other things. She's also the board president for the Barrio Youth Initiative. There's a lot of things here. I can't do it all. She is a volunteer for the homeless outreach at Oxford Circle Mennonite Church, a mentor to youth and young adults in her community. She has an incredible 16-year-old son, Douglas, and I am just thankful that Natalie is with us tonight. Let's greet Natalie with the love of the Lord.
Thank you, Pastor Larry. Hello, everybody. Young people, don't laugh at me because I brought up my big computer thing. I know you guys are like, why is she carrying that big laptop? It turns into my tablet, if I could turn it on. I always get really nervous talking in front of people, so hopefully I'll calm down in just a minute here. It's always, I feel really honored to be able to share about what God has done in my life. I don't know if this is going to cooperate. Okay. So I am very much an only girl. I was born and raised in Colombia, but I came here when I was 8 years old, and I grew up right at first at Ruscombe Front, and then when I was Olive Elementary School, and then moved right down the street to Front and then Cannon, right next door to Olney High School, and was there until I was 17, and then we moved right here at F and the Boulevard. So literally, very much Olney until I got married and moved to, where did we go to? Algon and Levick, and then finally ended up at East Oak Lane. So not far. And so I love this neighborhood, and I think one of the reasons why I was able to be successful and go through school is my experience in Olney Elementary, being in Olney and being a brown person in a diverse neighborhood, really, when I first got here, which I thought the whole city was that way. And then when I went to high school, I realized that wasn't the case. But anyway, so I just want to go back a little bit. We have 10 minutes, right? Let me see if I can turn this on. Hold on. So, my experience is very different. My experience is very much the immigrant coming to America story. I was born in Colombia, in Cali, Colombia, which is, as you know, Colombia is a third world country, and I come from a very poor family that, very often I always wonder, and I look up at God and I'm just like, why am I even here? How did this little Colombian end up here? How does this little Colombian from who was born out of wedlock to a poor mother, and just end up here, being able to go to school, having been able to learn English. Back when I first got here, I came here and I should have been put in third grade, but then they put me back in second grade because I didn't speak English, but there was an ESL teacher that I was blessed to have all to myself. I was the only ESL student at that time. And so I had her all to myself. So within 6-7 months, I was able to learn the language, and I'm so grateful for that. This thing's not turning on, so I'm just gonna go for it. So it's probably better that way. So I'm really grateful for that experience, being able to Mrs. Reiser was able to pour into me when I first came here, and I'm forever grateful for that. So, I'm going to go backwards and forward a little bit, because for me, it's a little bit overwhelming to be able to talk about my immigration story in light of our society right now. When I came, it wasn't cool to talk about it, so it was very much a move towards assimilation versus nowadays is a move towards multiculturalism and celebrating differences, or at least acknowledging that we're different, and being more a little bit more comfortable, or expect to see flags and hear different languages and music, etc. But when I came here, that wasn't the case, and so we had to lay very low because I came here as an undocumented immigrant, and so we couldn't go around being so proud to be undocumented residents to Philadelphia. So, so from my experience, at least for the first 20 years of my being here, it was very much like assimilating into the culture, which as an adult, I look back at that and it makes me sad, because I wasn't able to really enjoy and experience my own culture, right, and celebrate that the way that I would have, had I still lived in Colombia. And so I look at it, and I'm grateful for being able to still be here and to see how far we've come, because we have. I don't know how many of you are from Central South American countries, and how long you've been here, but I've been here for 33, going on 34 years, and it's very different. And so I'm really grateful that I've had the experience that I had, but at the same time, I don't get to talk about it as much, and so maybe I should, so that it could be encouraging to my brothers and sisters who are living it now. It wasn't as dangerous when I was undocumented as it is now. And so, that's something that's a challenge for this church, for this community, because the population here is so diverse, and probably, represent a big portion of the undocumented community. So that's a challenge and a blessing to the church. And so that's an area that I don't know if what the plan is for what plan the church has to address that, or to welcome individuals that have a very robust and complicated immigration story. So I was blessed, though, by being the immigrant in school. I was probably the only Colombian, and I'm a lot of the times the only Colombian. And people are like, "You're Colombian? You're a little dark to be Colombian," because the Colombian faces, if they know any, are Sofia Vergara or Shakira, or just people that don't look like me. So people are always really intrigued by that. And so I had a very interesting experience as a kid, because I was too dark, to be considered Latina. But then I used to have really pretty curly hair. Now I kind of messed it up. But my hair was good, so I didn't really have, my relationships with my African American sisters was really rough when I was younger, because they couldn't understand that I was dark, but I had good hair, and then I spoke Spanish. It was this whole thing. So I always, my friends growing up were always the international kids. So my friends were always Asian, Russian, just the others. We were literally called the International Posse or the Green Card Posse in elementary school and also in high school. And I had a couple of, and actually to this day, a couple of my best friends are white, and so they've always accepted me. And I think it was because we all grew up here in Alny. So it's been a very interesting dynamic, and so I'm able to, I think I've learned to sort of dance between the cultures. I struggle with I'm native of Colombia, so I'm first generation Colombian, but I've been here so long that I'm here and I'm not fully from here, and then I go home and then I'm not fully from there because they call me gringa when I go home. And I'm like, you guys know what that means, right? That term. And I'm like, I'm not gringa, yo soy caleña, colombiana, yo nací aquí. My blood is Colombian. My father, my mother, my grandparents, as far back as I have been able to research, they were all born in Colombia, but somehow I'm not 100% from here or from there. And I struggled with that for a long time into my adult life and as a Christian, and I'm like, God, why do you have me in this place where I never feel like I fit in? And that question I took all the way into seminary, and it was at some point during seminary where one of my professors was like, he said, that's a good tension to be in. I said, well, it's easy for you to say, but I'm always struggling with who am I? I wasn't born here, but I no longer dream in Spanish. I dream in English now, right? So I'm in a different place that my friends can't really relate to. And so he said, that's where the prophets lived, on the margins. And I just, that was probably the first time that it really hit me, and then I started to wrestle with that, and that brought life to me, because then I realized that it's okay to not be 100% from here or 100% from there. And then how many of you know that as Christians we're not supposed to be 100% from here either? Amen. Like we're on the way through, and so it starts to come together for me as an adult, and I'm like, this is taking a long time to understand why this tension, this wrestling, and now I thank God for it, because it does give me a sensitivity for people, for those who are my brothers and sisters who are American, born and raised, and then for those who are not, who came here like me, and then those who we're trying to reach, right? The people around our communities, our friends, our families that need Christ. And so it's a good tension to be in. And so I embrace that. And so I've been able to, I have opportunities. I was the first to go to college in my family, and let alone, be able to obtain graduate degrees. And I just say that because it's not impossible. With God, all things are possible. And and my story is that of redemption. God took me from the poorest place where I don't know what would have happened to me. I don't know my life, what it would have turned out to be had I stayed in Colombia. But I look at what God has done in my life, and I see His hand, and it really is. It's his hand and His mercy. And so I'm always asking God, what is man that you're mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him? I always, that to me, that's like my heart cry. And so thank you for letting me be here. I think I've gone over my time probably. But my experience with not just my white brothers and sisters, but African American, is different, because people could look at me and they're like, what are you? Where are you from? And so that I use that as an opportunity for conversation, an opportunity for relationship. And I think at the end of the day, I have a really strong passion about relationship and community. And the only way in which we can actually make any progress and actually live in community is through some intentional living life together, in its messiness, right, and its ugliness, and its tensions, and its celebrations, and its mourning, and we see it all throughout the scriptures. Our call is to extend true hospitality to the stranger. And so if we're going to try to build these bridges, that's where we need to live for a while, is learning to extend true hospitality to the stranger. What does that mean? And it's going to mean being very uncomfortable, crying, throwing your hands up, giving up all your ideas, what you thought were the right ways of doing it, and then letting God take over.